Welcome to Share Talk, the only podcast where investors come first.
Hi, this is Zak Mir with the Bulletin Board Heroes on Monday, the 20th of January. Starting off with this still, where you can see that today has just broken this symmetrical triangle which has been in place since October. Floor of the triangle at the 50-day moving average at 0.69 and end of day close really above the 0.72, 0.73 level should be enough to allow the stock to eventually make way towards post-October resistance at 1 pence plus. Obviously the 200-day moving average there at 1.13 hanging there as a potential target as it's falling through from the higher levels. Next stock is one which I don't think I've ever looked at before here. It's DP Poland. What you can see here is just broken the 200-day moving average after a good week last week. Had a sliding along the 50-day line period over the second half of December and beginning of January, but that process is finished. The 50-day line now rising, and the view at this stage is at least while we're above the last swing low there, 5.75 pence, so the shares could head towards the top of a broadening triangle, rather ambitious target I suppose, but there's no fun without that sort of thing. Broadening triangle from last March heading towards 15 pence over the next 2 to 3 months. Only really back below the 50-day line, wherever that trails the stock, would really be a negative for the shares. Obviously at the moment the RSI at 98, so rather overbought. Might see a bit of consolidation either side of the 200-day line before any further progress is made. Next up, one of the most difficult stocks to make a handle on, which is why I'm looking at it again. Here we've got symmetrical triangle broken at 70 pence today. End of day close for Innovaderma at 70 pence plus should be enough for the shares to head back towards post-July resistance at 90 pence. The stop loss probably on this occasion doesn't and shouldn't need to be any deeper than the 50-day moving average at 64 pence. Obviously you've got that uptrend line there from November at 60 pence as an alternative risk management point. Next up, one of today's rises comes in the form of Proton Power. Been rising for a few days now, so we're about 3 or 4 days late on seeing this situation. I suppose the break of the 25 pence area was, or 25, 26 pence was really the big break, but you could argue that until Friday the stock hadn't really confirmed its intentions. What is interesting here though is the way that we had firstly a cross below the 200-day moving average by the 50-day line in November. That can actually be a buy signal in terms of telling you that the floor is in place, and that was the case in this case. We saw the same sort of situation in Argo blockchain as well a little while back, but now we've got both the near-term moving averages rising towards a likely golden cross, and as we know, the run-up to a golden cross is normally the most bullish point in the cycle. We're seeing that at the moment. Decent end of day close above 30 pence today should underline the stock's intention to hit the top of a rising May trend channel at 55 pence over the next 1 to 2 months. Stop loss back below the 200-day line at 25 pence. Just going back now to stock which I covered a few times in recent weeks, and not surprisingly, given the near vertical move that we've had here for Powerhouse Energy, just the odd pullback from 60 pence and then I suppose 80 pence of late, but it does look like we're in a rising trend channel, sharply rising trend channel, heading towards a penny, and that currently seems to be the minimum on the upside on offer. Target value while we hold above at least 0.75 pence, maybe allow down to 0.7 as the stop loss there. RSI at 79, but not horrifically overbought, and obviously we are just 2 to 3 days into the golden cross buy signal that came in at the middle of last week. Onto a stock which is often talked about on Twitter and the bulletin boards, but doesn't always give as much reason in terms of the price action to get all or generate all that talk. We had the spike through towards 0.2 in October. Since then there's been quite a lengthy pullback, maybe too lengthy for most short-term traders, but it does look as though we've got a break of this triangle here, nominally at 0.08, and decent end of day close today above that level, either 0.09 or more. could signal that the shares are ready to retest at least post-November resistance at 0.14. But maybe a little early there on that particular situation despite the triangle break. Biggest move of the day and the biggest splash today by far is Rockfire, and here you can see that shares have escaped that triangle that we've had since, I suppose, the end of November. The resistance line there running around the 0.8 pence level, and we've gapped through that today quite confidently. End of day close today above 1.09, the 50-day moving average would underline the stock's intentions to make a new attempt at retesting the best levels of the year to date at 2.25 pence. The other plus is the way that the shares are pushing through, and it will probably close above a rising 50-day moving average. That can be a very good intermediate buy signal on its own right when stocks dip to consolidate. But it looks like the consolidation's over, and a new leg to the upside could and should be on its way. Finishing off with a stock I've also covered a few times in the recent past, and not surprisingly given the stellar run that the shares had in the second half of last year. It looks as though Silence finally breaking out of this falling wedge which has been in place since the beginning of last month. The top of the wedge there at £3.20, so while we're above that, looking for a retest of at least the £4 to £4.25 area, 4.25 being the 50-day moving average. Good bullish divergence there as well, lower second low there in towards the end of this month, and a higher RSI, so that does show there's some decent leading momentum on this situation. The other point to note is that since the big breakout in July, the shares have been been nowhere near the 200-day moving average, which is currently nearly £1.50 below where the share price is at the moment. So a very strong looking situation at the moment. That's it for me today. More updates tomorrow.
Thank you for listening. Remember to visit our website for more news and other podcasts at www.share-talk.com.